Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Ultimate Bucket List, and on today's show, I'm here at Hampton Court Palace, one of England's royal residences and the historical home of King Henry VIII. Located just 15 miles southwest of central London, Hampton Court Palace is the second largest palace in the country, and from the air, this place looks absolutely palatial. And it is, given that it's a palace. It is the traditional home of King Henry VIII, our most infamous and fattest monarch, and Hampton Court Palace is literally fit for a king. And after watching this video, you'll see why. So my day starts today at Hampton Court Station. To find Hampton Court Palace, you literally exit the station, follow the signs and walk across the bridge, and whoop, there it is. You'd have to be a complete idiot to miss it because it's so huge. Once you go through the entrance, you'll be met with this incredibly long walkway that you'll need to walk down in order to access the palace. Imagine if you're a noble person or royalty and you have to ride your horse down this. It's pretty cool. And from the outside, the palace looks, well, pretty big. I mean, really big. But I'd expect nothing less being a royal palace. Right outside, just where these gargoyles are, is where you'll need to have your ticket. Once you've scanned in, away you go. But don't walk too quickly though, because the entrance is probably one of the best entrances that I've ever seen in any historical place. I mean, check that out! Look at the ceiling detail on that! That, mixed in amongst the colours of the bricks, makes for an excellent photo opportunity. And if you are a photographer or videographer like me, this is incredibly picturesque. You can create a lot of cool stuff from this. And whilst you're here, pick up a map that will show you around Hampton Court Palace. Once you go through the entrance, you'll be met with Base Court. This is the main courtyard here at Hampton Court Palace, and boy do you get some nice views from here. From every corner of this court, this place looks pretty magnificent, and there's plenty of things to take pictures and videos of. There's a lovely fountain, complete with a couple of wooden people. Huh, she's cute, I wonder if she's single. But take your time to absorb where you are because there's plenty of places that you can go to from here. This is a good time to stop, use your map and plan your day accordingly because there is a lot to see here in this palace. My first stop is the Gold and Glory exhibition. This tells you the entire story of the deal between the King of England, Henry VIII, and Francois I of France to broker a peace deal, in what is known as the Field of Cloth of Gold. This was revolutionary at the time because France and England were technically at war, and the meeting of the two kings to declare peace on each other was seen as pretty groundbreaking. This exhibit highlights the groundbreaking deal between the two kings, what they would have worn at the time, what happened at the time, and there's various historical artifacts from that era. This was seen as one of the most important moments of history between the two nations. But alas, because of both kings' ambition and jealousy of each other, peace only lasted for 2 years before they ended up at war with each other. Again. So it's down the stairs you go, and it's now time to have a look at William III's apartments and the Georgian story. And you'll start with this wonderful staircase. Imagine having a staircase that looks like this. It's ornately painted and ornately decorated. This looks like it belongs in a museum in Italy, not necessarily a palace in England. But yeah, the detail in this place is actually pretty amazing. Like I said, if you're a photographer or videographer, this is a pretty awesome place to take your photos and videos. A lot of things to see here, so if you do come to Hampton Court Palace, I guarantee you won't be bored. This whole area is known as the King's Apartments, and the first room you'll come across is this big massively long drawer room. I think they use this for public gatherings, and look at the decoration on this place. All of these decorations are made of weapons, and it has been there for quite some time, so that's pretty cool. Next up, is the throne room, so this is where the monarch, in this case King Henry VIII, would have sat in day-to-day life. And as you can imagine from being a throne room, lavish paintings, beautifully decorated candelabras, and everything in this room is incredibly detailed. It really is a lovely place to spend some time in. You'll then walk into the King's Gallery. This is a collection of paintings that the monarchy have acquired. This is a common theme in quite a lot of palaces. Being a royal family, they like their paintings, and quite a lot of them are on display here. This is the guard chamber. This is where the yeoman guards, the people that are responsible for guarding the monarch, usually hang out and get ready, whilst wearing this very, very stylish uniform, of course. And there's plenty of other rooms that you can visit, such as this, the presence chamber, and the King's dining room, where the King would dine publicly with ordinary members of the public. And check out those napkin decorations. Yes, those animals are just made from napkins. It's pretty cool to also see the kind of dress that people would have worn back in the day. There's a few other rooms that you'll see, such as the Privy Chamber, where the King and Queen would sit to meet with members of the public, and there are some more beautifully decorated rooms, particularly the drawing room right here, complete with the type of clothing that they would have worn back in the day. And take a look at the ceilings because they are just as beautiful as any art painting that you'll see in any art gallery. You'll even get to visit the State Bedchamber, which for some reason doesn't really have a bed in it, and the Queen's Gallery. This is the last room in the state apartment and was usually a private space for the monarchy. But when you're walking around, I advise you to take your time and take everything in, because there is so much to see and do here at Hampton Court Palace. Far more than I'm letting on in this video. Anyway, it's down the stairs you go and you'll get to look at the fountains. Now, it's only at this point that you realise that it takes an entire army of people to keep a palace looking pristine. And when I came, there's an entire team of people completely replanting all the flowers around this fountain. So this is the sort of thing that you don't see, the amount of work it takes to make a palace look good. So good on these guys. One thing that I will warn you about is that it's a palace. It's an incredibly big place, and sometimes walking around, it's not immediately obvious where to go, and it can feel like a bit of a labyrinth at times. So here's me wandering around some of the back corridors of Hampton Court Palace, and it's not immediately obvious where everything is at this point. Bear that in mind if you have a bad sense of direction. Pretty shortly we find our way to Henry VIII's kitchens, and believe it or not, this whole area is a giant kitchen. I'm not joking. All of these buildings are reserved for preparing the King's food, and when you walk in, you'll probably ask yourself the age-old question, who ate all the pies? It's pretty interesting to see a medieval-style kitchen. Believe it or not, they are massive. And there's specific buildings for specific things, like a fish court. This is the meat room where they would prepare the meats for the king. And overall, this kitchen is pretty much fit for the monarchy. Mainly because it is. If you're stuck for some reason, there's always a helpful member of staff who's willing to answer any questions. This is Emma, by the way. She was wonderful and she was very, very good with the kids. Feel free to ask them any questions, and more often than not they'll know the answer. But once you've realised how much King Henry VIII eats, it's now time to learn about Henry VIII in Henry VIII's apartments. This is a subsection of rooms telling you all about the life of King Henry VIII here at Hampton Court. And the first room you'll come across? Well, it's the Great Dining Hall. And what a dining hall it is. I mean, look up there. Check out the ceiling detail. It is immense. And the tapestries along the wall, they're pretty authentic as well. Around the Great Hall, you'll actually get to learn about all of King Henry VIII's wives. All 6 of them. And there's various exhibits describing the life of each one and their relationship to King Henry VIII. If you don't know a lot about history, you certainly will by the time you leave this place. Along the tables here, they'll even tell you about things like table manners and the rules and hierarchy of dining here, because there's a lot of rules. But try not to walk too fast, because this is a very, very interesting room indeed. And certainly when you get to the King and Queen's table, you'll notice the difference in standards between that and a normal table. Imagine that this is where King Henry VIII and one of his wives, whichever one that might be, they used to sit right here. Behind that is access to another one of King Henry VIII's rooms, complete with tapestries and beautiful ceiling decorations, and whilst walking through, you'll get to see portraits of King Henry VIII when he was a bit thinner, and pictures of King Henry VIII as we know him now. You still get to learn a little bit more about his wives. Hey, ooh, that's a scary picture. This is the exact spot that King Henry VIII married Catherine Parr, in a simple privy closet, with a simple altar. And this is exactly what it would have looked like. But most of his weddings happened in the Chapel Royal, which is the on-site church here at Hampton Court Palace. And wow, that's nice, especially if you look at the ceilings. The interior resembles Westminster Abbey, and when you look up at the ceiling, this is the famous ceiling that you'll see in all of the marketing materials at Hampton Court. Watching over the Chapel Royal is King Henry VIII's crown, which they keep overwatch over the Chapel Royal. Okay, I believe it's a reproduction, but that doesn't detract from the fact that this is kind of what he would have worn, and this is his own personal church, so that's kind of cool. This, as well as the entrance, is probably the best photo opportunity here at Hampton Court. I really do love this ceiling. If you're a worshipper, you can actually access Hampton Court Palace free to worship at various times. Take your time to explore some of the historical artifacts, including this wedding certificate, before disappearing down this amazing staircase. Yes, another amazing staircase, complete with amazing painting and amazing ceiling detail. Would you expect anything less from a royal palace? Probably not. As soon as you exit though, you'll be met with this sight of the Hampton Court Astronomical Clock. This resembles the astronomical clock I saw in Prague, and it makes for an excellent photo opportunity. So you've basically seen everything in Hampton Court Palace now, but there's a whole bunch of green space outside that's just as impressive as everything on the inside. Follow the signs to the gardens and you'll be met with this. Look at those trees, look at this green space, literally everything is fit for royalty. There's exotic flowers everywhere, golden carriages that people can go into that they've grown flowers out of. Everything about this garden is picture perfect. It must take an army of people to make this look good. Oh wait, here they are. Literally every blade of grass, every tree is literally perfect, and this is one of the nicest formal gardens that I've ever had the pleasure of frequenting. It's also a quiet, relaxing green space, so if you did want to take a break away from the hustle and bustle and the crowds, this is pretty much a perfect way to do it. Check out the main fountain in the middle of the gardens. The most famous of these formal gardens is the Privy Garden, which looks like this. This is the one that you'll see in the drone shots, in the publicity photos, and in all the magazines. And up close and personal, it is stunning. There is so much detail here, it's unreal. Everything is mown and trimmed to perfection, and whilst I was here, groups of people were working on it continuously. The Privy Garden looks beautiful from pretty much any angle. You'll need about 10-15 minutes to actually explore it all. There's lots of offshoot private gardens as well, ones that we can't actually enter but you can actually look in, and these are really gorgeous. It's also home to the grapevine, the largest grapevine in the world. To prove it, they have the Guinness Book of Records certificate right here. Once you've had your fill of the exterior, it's time to leave, but not before visiting the Undercroft Shop. So this is a place where you can buy souvenirs and whatnot and get a drink and use the toilet. Overall, I think you'll be incredibly pleased if you come here to Hampton Court Palace. It's a lovely day out and you can literally spend 3, 4, 5 hours here without a problem. If I'd known about the expansiveness of the green space, I probably would have brought a picnic and stuff like that. But as it turns out, if you haven't had enough of the green space, Hampton Court Palace is surrounded by acres of public parkland that is completely free to go into and you don't actually need to pay. There's green spaces such as Hampton Court Green and the Barge Walk, which completely surrounds Hampton Court. You can literally walk around the River Thames just in case you still need a bit of exercise. Not that you would, because walking around Hampton Court Palace burns a lot of calories. So guys, I've just completed a tour here at Hampton Court Palace, and I've got to say, I'm very surprised. It's been very educational, and this is probably one of the nicest palaces that I've actually ever been to, and I've been to a lot. You get to learn an awful lot about Henry VIII and his wives, and why he chose Hampton Court as his de facto palace. It really is a nice place, and if you're interested in history, this is definitely one to add to your bucket list. Okay Nin, I'm sold. What do I need to do? Well, you need to come here to Hampton Court Palace. It's situated about 30 minutes outside of central London, and to get here, you'll either need to drive, it's about 30 minutes, take public transport, it's just under an hour, or the easiest way is to actually take the train to Hampton Court Station, which is literally directly outside Hampton Court Palace. Please note that Hampton Court and Hampton Stations are two completely different places, so when you do buy your train tickets, make sure that you buy it to Hampton Court, not Hampton. The cost? Well, it's about £27, but I'll put the exact cost right on the screen there. If you are looking to visit Kensington Palace and the Tower of London, make sure you buy a membership, because you get to visit all of these places unlimited for a year for the flat cost of about £59, so it definitely saves you a whole bunch of money. Is there anything else I need to know? Yes, because of current COVID restrictions, spaces are quite limited, so you have to book way in advance. Go to the website to book tickets, and as soon as you get here, you're required to wear your face mask at all times. There's plenty of hand sanitizers and social distancing, so it's a perfectly safe environment. And also, be prepared for a lot of school groups that like to visit this place. Some people don't like that. I don't mind it personally, but sometimes that can annoy some people, so bear that in mind if you are visiting this palace. Overall, it's one of the nicer palaces that I've actually been to, and if you are interested in history, this is definitely one to add to the bucket list. If you have found this video at all helpful, please be sure to like, share and subscribe. Comment on the comment section below, and if you've got any other suggestions for bucket list ideas, you know what to do. Tweet them at me, and if I get enough suggestions, I'll go ahead and do that. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. £26, but I'll put the cost about £59. But there's a guy with a loudspeaker over there just ruining my audio, man. It's not funny.